Hi, this is Myra Tainsley, and I'm taping this on July the 23rd, 2018. And I am the proud single parent of a very wonderful 25-year-old son with high functioning autism. His name is Marquis. I am African American. I've been a registered nurse for over 30 years. And I am a proud Christian. I believe in God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He is my anchor. He is my son's anchor. And he will have to right this terrible injustice that is being done to my son and I, especially my son, because he's directly being abused and neglected and exploited by a government system that is corrupt, evil, and racist. That's in denial. And denial means when a person or whatever cannot accept the truth. The evidence could be there. It's actually the truth. And they still cannot accept it or acknowledge it. Because people that are in denial do not deny lies. They deny the truth. They just won't acknowledge it. And so, me and my son have been separated, even though there hasn't been any abuse or neglect or exploitation in our family for over 3 years now. The last time he was allowed to call me was on May the 13th, 2017. And if he doesn't call me, it's not because he doesn't want to. I know you probably say, well, why? Well, it hasn't been because of abuse and neglect and exploitation. And that's the only time you're supposed to separate a family. I haven't abused and neglected my son like they're doing. Why? Because I'm an African American mother who dares to challenge the system. Plus, I'm exposing these people. They know I get evidence. I have 3 Facebook pages to prove that I'm not full of hot air. And I have evidence. I have photographs. I have documents. I have recordings. And this recording, what I'm doing now is on my 3rd Facebook page that I created. And I'll give you the names of those. I'm putting recordings of my son, because my son is high functioning, so he has vocabulary. And I entitle it, The Audio Tapes of Marquis Tainsley, His Suffering, Abuse, and Neglect. So people can hear how devastated and how, he feels about missing his mother and being away from his mother. Him telling me incidences of abuse and neglect. Of course, I could go over there and see that he was being abused and neglected too. But my son was able to verbalize what was going on, how they were treating him to me. Because, the racist thing about this is that, well, how dare me now? I'm a black mother. I'm supposed to be in silent mode. How dare I come and challenge the system, let alone expose them? So they always said that I escalated my son. But you won't hear this on the tapes. You'll hear a son that's venting to his mother and begging his mother to take him home and expressing how much he misses her and his home, and expressing to her and telling her exactly the pain that he's suffering in a facility or around people that didn't have a clue about autism, that were unfit, abusive, didn't have the patience or the skills to deal with somebody or deal with a disability like my son has, which is autism. And you'll hear that. Of course, I could see it myself. I even see my son. And that's the next tape coming up. I've seen him actually get physically attacked by a thug over there at Columbus Developmental Center, which is the state of Ohio, operated and ran Developmental Center. It's ran by the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. And it's like probably maybe 6 or 7 that's around the state. And so Columbus has one of them. But it's actually an ICF MRI facility, an intermediate care facility for the mentally retarded. And they didn't know how to do or have any kind of, they didn't have any kind of skills dealing with autistic residents. because my son was in sensory overload morning, noon, and night, and they had very vicious, very unfit employees that would abuse my son, while Heidi Hughes, Mike Snow, Robert Capaldi, and everybody else turned their heads. It was a code of silence not to speak out about abuse if you want to keep your job. But there's a lot of that in the system. It's in the court system. It's in these agencies. It's in, home agencies, state facilities, state agencies. You're supposed to try to sweep it under the rug with the rest of the corrupt idiots. If you speak out, you won't have a job. And it's a sad thing, especially in the legal or illegal system. But, God is very angry. And people won't have to answer. They don't have to wait until they bust hell open. God will deal with you in this life. And he said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. But the Bible is where I get my truth from. And even God admits that injustice exists. And when he talks about injustice, he's not talking about people out in the street. He's not talking about the average Joe in the street. He's talking about these people that work in courts, magistrate, judges, lawyers, court investigators, clerks, all of those people that keep that corruption going on. And God is very angry with it. But since I'm a black African-American mother, they have always said that about me. And I said, well, they don't need to speak for my son, because I got it all taped. I got them on recording too, because that's where I do it. I'm an evidence girl. But I got my son on tape. And as a mother, I'm a victim in this thing. Yes, they have just abused him and beaten him and stolen from him and kept him, in sensory overload. They have terrorized my son. He's been traumatized. He's been, assaulted and beaten, stolen from, blamed for his disability. Me too. I said, well, he's venting to me, not because of him. And maybe if you all didn't treat my son like an animal when I came over here to visit him, then maybe he wouldn't be saying, Mom, I want to leave, and this I got to go, and they restrained me, and my eyes are bloodshot, and I'm sad. Maybe he wouldn't be venting to me. But he could never tell me, and he never did tell me, Mom, I like this place. I had fun today. He's never told me that because of the cruel, evil, sick, racist pieces of trash that they had working over there. And it wasn't all just, white employees, but they controlled the system. Ain't no black people running anything. They're not in charge. You got a lot of Native Africans that were just as, and they're cruel. And I'm going like, it's a lot of them that's in this field. I wonder why. Is it because they have empathy, or they're very compassionate? And it wasn't that. And I said, well, I figured it out. I said, most of them can't even speak clear English. So I guess they say, oh, they're retarded or got autism. They can't understand us anyway and stuff like that. Because they were just, but they couldn't even say the word autism, let alone spell it or know what it meant. But they hired a lot of them too. I said, well, I can't even understand them. How in the world these people that are developmentally disabled can understand these, they can't speak clear English, and God knows what their comprehension of it is. But my son, he has not, the last time I seen him or was allowed to have a visit with him was March the 15th, 2015. And the last time I actually viewed him, and that was through my own efforts, was July the 8th, 2015. Now he's got a very evil, racist, sick, unfit, and I don't call names, I just describe people. Just like if I was saying this evil, unfit, sick woman had brown hair, me describing her as a liar, being unfit, racist, and sick is just as truthful. So I don't call names, but I will describe people. And that includes the type of person they are. Her name is Erin Sanford. She used to work for the Mashburn Law Office, but I don't know who left who. But now she slid herself over to the Nye Law Group. But this woman is a liar. And I actually filed grievance against her to the Ohio Supreme Court Disciplinary Court Council, and they supposed to, have oversight over the attorneys, all the lawyers in Ohio. And when I sent this grievance, I told them two things. I told them how she was neglecting her duties as a guardian for my son by allowing him to live in terrible places and get abused and neglected by all kind of staff, ignoring the fact and denying the fact, along with the rest of the system, that my son is being abused and neglected. And I also told them about her lying, because they got on their webpage, we will not allow the attorneys to lie to the court. Well, she lied to the court on me 3 times, because the court put in the paper that she told the court, that I was making my son, he gets all upset and all that kind of stuff. She was just following orders like the rest of them. But it's still a lie. So I told them about that. They ignore. Well, they did say something about they didn't have jurisdiction for the way she's treating Marquis. But they ignore my complaint and said that the probate court had the jurisdiction. If I had any problems with the way the probate court was, or Sanford was treating my son, to notify probate court, which I did probably, back in September 16? I think it was September. It was a few months before I sent the grievance to the so-called Ohio Supreme Court Disciplinary Council. And it went nowhere, because it's the probate court is corrupt and full of sick, evil. I mean, these people are evil, because the Bible even tells me, and I'm reading the Bible for the 4th time all the way through, that people that do injustice are evil people. They're evil. And ain't nothing nice about evil person. That's a negative thing, to have evil people, making decisions and stuff. Believe me, that's a guaranteed big mess up. And a guarantee busting hell wide open if they don't repent. But I went ahead and sent a complaint, like I said, in September, I think 2016, to probate court about Sanford. Well, they lied and slandered me. She lied and slandered me. And they just said everything is fine. He's not in denial. Again, can't accept the truth, won't acknowledge the truth, and close the complaint. So in February 2017, that's when I sent that grievance to the Ohio Supreme Court Disciplinary Council. And I wasn't surprised. They wouldn't even address the lies that I had told them that she had told on me. And believe me, I did put evidence in there to prove what I like my evidence. So if I say something, there's evidence that go right along with it. Because I don't sit up and say, I'm going to make up things about these people. You don't have to make up things when people are already sick. They're corrupt. They're going to do, it's just like Jesus said, a good tree is going to bear good fruit, and a bad tree is going to bear bad fruit. You don't have to make up things, sick, evil, corrupt things on people that are sick, evil, and corrupt. They're actually going to do those things. I just make sure I record it or collect it for my records. So I'm not full of hot air. And like I said, I got 3 Facebook pages that's full of evidence. The first one is called The Abuse and Neglect of Autistic Marquis Tanksley by the Government. The second one is called Justice for Autistic Marquis Tanksley. And the third one is called The Audio Tapes of Marquis Tanksley, His Suffering, Abuse, and Neglect. And I tell people for the first 2 pages, since they have not allowed me to have any contact with him, because that's to protect him. They don't care nothing about him. If they did, they wouldn't be abusing and neglecting him. All they want is that money. Sanford wants that SSI, $800 SSI money, while he lives in poverty and being abused and neglected by unfit, abusive staff, because, that consumer support services. I caught that one girl on the lie, called them up, left a message, ain't heard from her and stuff. And I said, this is for Karina, whatever her name is. I said, for lying on me and my son. Because they don't not only slander me like no tomorrow, they'll lie on Marquis too. And I told her what her lie was. But, like I was saying, the first 2 pages that I mentioned, I tell people to start from the beginning. That means from the very first time or the first post, the first day I created it. Start from those posts. Because now they don't allow me to have any contact with him, so I can't get evidence. But if they start from the beginning, they can see I'm not full of hot air. Now the audio tape page, the one that I put the recordings on, people should start from the beginning of that too, actually. But now I'm starting, like on this particular recording, and I got them all the way up to the last time I talked to my son in 2016, the last time he was allowed to call me. And I'm almost about ready to go almost into 2013. I'm still at the end of 2012. And, and I tell people, just make sure that when you listen and go to those first 2 pages, to go to the beginning. They should do it for the audio tape page, but they really don't have to. But I am starting to put some of my recordings, like they're basically a Marquis telling me, expressing his feelings. People can hear from his own mouth and his own words what he went through and what he continues to go through, the suffering, the abuse of all kinds, the emotional pain, the physical abuse, him being hit and being terrorized while he's, while staff is abusing him and assaulting him and grabbing on him and stuff. It's all there. It's all there. And I vow, but I'm a Christian. God said, I got this thing handled. And if I want him to come back home, he's going to come back home. He said, but you need to pray for your enemies. He said, because when I bust this thing wide open, I'm going to bust them open. And he said, you're right. Your son ain't done nothing wrong, but you don't have to do anything wrong for sick, evil, racist people to mistreat you. There's a lot of people that have been mistreated and killed just because, and they never really done anything wrong. Look at the way they did Jesus. He was numbered with the transgressors. He was without sin, yet he was executed like a criminal. Now, I know that he did it for me and millions others and my son. He took those stripes for me and my son's healing and everybody else's healings that would accept it. He died on the cross for our sins, that washed our sins away. And he came back out of that grave 3 days later. But actually, the way he died was like a criminal. And he was not a criminal. He did not have any sin at all. So just because people mistreat you don't mean you deserve it. And that used to break my heart. And it's still painful for me to even go through these tapes. I'm trying to hurry up because I don't have that much time. Because I still got to play the recording. And it's just snippets. It's not the whole conversation. But just snippets of, like on this recording, I got to record a part where I was talking to Franklin County Board of Developmentally Disabled employee by the name of Miguel Salas. And I was telling about that apartment that they had put Marquis in was not appropriate. It was too loud. It was built for a person in a wheelchair. It was real tiny. It wasn't made and structured for somebody with autism. And then he had also told me, and then it was a very nasty, racist, unfit, corrupt service coordinator by the name of Ann Watson who lied on me and slandered me, something terrible, and slandered Marquis. And I said, well, she was telling me that y'all have locations that come new all the time. Because they kept telling me, we can't find another place for him and stuff. And I told him that. I said, well, she told me that y'all have new locations all the time. And he said, well, Ann Watson doesn't know all the details and procedures and stuff. So that's on there. I'm going like, well, idiot, if she don't, why in the world is she a service coordinator? She's not qualified to be in a job like that if she's going to be giving people false information. But anyway, like I said, it's so much, and it's just so many rotten, unfit, racist people that have done my son wrong, and me too. Because like I said, I'm a victim in this thing too, as his mother. I said, because there ain't no parent that love their son or daughter would want to go in there and see their son or daughter the way I've seen my son, or hear the things he have told me, or seen the things that I have seen. If you love your child, and I always been baffled. I said, well, what? Am I supposed to not love my son? Or, I'm going like, well, I love my child just like they love their children. But, it's also that racism, because, it's like something that they don't mind doing, is breaking up that black family. But I also know it's the worth that they have of black people in this country. That's why I say I understand what Black Lives Matter means. Because if people don't have any respect for you as a human being, and that's a terrible sin, because Jesus is that's going to send a lot of people to hell, the way you treat other people. You cannot hate a whole race of people and go to heaven. I don't care if you go to church 7 days a week. You just can't do that. That's a terrible sin, because God said you don't love him. How can you love God who you have not seen and hate your brother who you have seen? But you just can't hate a whole bunch of people, in any type of category. It doesn't have to just be racial. You just can't do that. Because you got to love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said your neighbor is anybody. That's why you had the parable of the Good Samaritan. He said, well, who's the neighbor to him? Well, the Samaritan happened to be the guy that took care of him, not the guy's own racial group. And Jesus said, well, go and do likewise. Now, that's the way God feels about it. You're not going to go to heaven hating on other people. I hate racism, but I don't hate people. But when people don't think you're worth anything, they're going to treat you like you're worth nothing. They think you're 3/5 of a human being. I think you're secondary or second class. They don't care about your life. They don't care about your rights. I said, that's my motherhood rights. That's why I said I'll never stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Because I used to stand up and put my hand on my heart, but I couldn't get all the words out. Because I'm going like, now, wait a minute. This is not happening. And see, that's what that thing is about the national anthem. I don't care about the national anthem, but I kind of understand taking the knee. But I can't stand up there and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag and life, liberty, and justice for all, and pursuit of happiness and stuff. You think my son's got justice and life and liberty and pursuit of happiness, and he can't even see his own mother? I'm not going to say it. And I don't give a darn what a piece of idiotic, ignorant scum that disagrees with me. I can't even say it. I can't even see my own child. The government has separated me from being able to love, and I still love him, but to have companionship and do the things a mother and a father likes to do with their children. You think because to me, it has to be for everybody. It has to be for me and my son, for me to say that. But I don't knock people that do, because I know everybody don't have the same experience in this country. If America been good to you and your family, then you salute the flag and you say your pledge of allegiance and you do your national anthem. I said, but I can't do that. I said, not like that. I said, that's not what we live in. We got to live it. And that's what they're doing. They're looking at the true meaning. It ain't about no patriotic thing and stuff. Because he does not have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And he sure ain't had no justice. My son's been assaulted. It's been all covered up. They didn't do anything about stolen from. I said it's unconstitutional that he can't have a familiar bond and companionship with his own mother. A mother that has not used or abused him or exploited him. A mother that has supported him. A professional mother. A loving mother. A mother that's available. Because my son has deteriorated, as far as his health and stuff. I said, he didn't have no psoriasis and all that stuff when he's at home with me. But now that y'all don't allow him to have hygiene and, you just have to go to the abuse and neglect page and just start from, like I said, the first day I created the page. And I would have to go in there and see this stuff. You know, I would bring my son all kinds of clothes, brand new sets of clothes, and 98% of them I never seen in the morning. Because they would take them and steal them. The staff would take them and steal them. And then put clothes on him that belonged to other residents. Or, and they were all ill-fitting and dirty and everything else. I said, where's my son's clothes that I brought up here? And it got so bad, they stopped signing in for it. But that's all right. I got pictures and papers of everything I brought up there. And I could prove it either. I could prove it too. I don't have to worry about, them saying you didn't bring him any clothes and stuff. Because when they stopped signing in for it, I continued to write it down. And I took pictures of it too. But they wouldn't allow him to wear it. And I mean, sets of clothes. I mean, sets of, like 4 or 5 shorts and t-shirts and pajama bottoms. You just name it. Nothing. But they don't think he's nothing, I mean, he's what? Disabled, black male and stuff. All he's worth is federal funds. And that Social Security check that filthy, nasty lawyer Aaron Sanford is getting. While he lives in poverty. And where he lives now is like a real tiny, those Section 8 townhomes that they have, where as soon as you walk in the front door, 10 steps later, you're at the back door. And I got pictures of it. Well, it's owned by the state of Ohio, but it's in a terrible, filthy neighborhood. And it's so bad, the neighborhood's so bad that the state of Ohio put a metal locked black gate around it. Because it's so bad. But it's surrounded by filthy, dirty alleys, terrible, neighborhood and everything. And I can prove it. But like I said, I'm waiting for God to bring my son back home and to handle these people. Because he said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. I will do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how God is going to do it. And get this trash out of our lives. And I said I could respect a criminal out in the street more than I could respect Aaron Sanford and Mike DeWine and John Kasich. Because I got just tons of evidence where I've done contacted all kind of people. And the only thing I got to say about the federal government, because I contacted them, the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, President Obama, who wrote me back, President Trump, who wrote me back, or had the people wrote me back. And they would just kick it back to staff. I said, well, that's ignorant. I said, you don't let these people police themselves. I said, the state of Ohio, Franklin County Board of Developmental Disability, Ohio Department of Developmental Disability, Probate Court, Franklin County, Ohio, all of these people are keeping my son in the system for the money they can make off of him, plus Aaron Sanford. And then the home DD staff, and like I said, I called them and left a message. I said, this is for, like I said, Karina, for lying on me and my son. And I just told her, I said, you people are just corrupt filth. You're just scum in the Bible, the scum that the Bible talks about when they talk about injustice. And it's throughout the Bible. I mean, God really, really hates injustice. He hates sin, period. But it's just throughout the Bible. In the book of Psalms, the book of Proverbs, you got prophets talking about it, But God says it exists. So nobody can tell me it doesn't exist. But that's who does it. It's not the average Joe on the street. So the last time Marquis was able to talk, or allowed to call me, like I said, was over a year ago. And they don't want, actually, I just went ahead and, was it May the 13th of this year? Anyway, back just almost 2 months ago, all I had to do is pull up the records, but I just got to file an motion to be appointed his guardian, because they took my guardianship away from me. Because you don't want a mother like me having guardianship. Because anything happens to him, they don't have to tell me. If my son has to have surgery or be in the hospital, or anything happened to him through probably no fault of his own, they don't have to tell a mother like me. So it protects them. All they have to do is get Aaron Sanford's filthy signature. I don't know how them people sleep at night. She don't care nothing about it because that's not her child. She has no emotional attachment to him. But she sure believes in getting their money because that's where his SSI check go to her. And he living in probably some $125 Section 8 townhome in a filthy neighborhood. I don't see how that. That's why I said, now that's evil. That's just evil. That's just the devil himself. That's just like dealing with the devil. I said, I could respect like I said, a criminal out in the street more than I could respect these people. But anyway, I found this motion. And they had some old corrupt magistrate write me back and said that they weren't going to have a motion. That it's like I didn't have a standing and have a motion. It's more of a pathway to have one of their investigations. Let me put it that way. Now remember, I just filed an investigation, like I said, back in February 2017. It went no place. They were in denial. They slandered me, slandered Marquis, were in denial about him being abused and neglected and exploited, and closed the case. So she said that I didn't need to file a motion and that it should be, they're going to do their investigative process. So we know how that's going to go again. But it'll take God to bring this down, get Marquis back home. Because there's things that only God can do. And, God has authority. He has the final say. But you cannot fight a whole army of racist, sick, evil, corrupt people. Because they all stick together. They all work in concert with each other. That's the courts. That's the agencies. That's the individual agents. The lawyers that work in the system. That's the state government agencies and private agencies. They all work together. But Marquis ain't done nothing. And like I told him, I said, you don't, because you should say, I suck. And I said, no, you don't. I said, because what's happening to you ain't because you done anything wrong. I said, it's the people that you working with. But it's all on tape. And I said, I'm going to vow. And I realized that my job, I can't bring these people down. I can't bring them home. Bring my son home. Only person that can do that is God. There's things that only God can do. There's situations that only He can reverse and put down. But I vowed that I was going to let the world know what me and my son is going through. But he told me, God told me, he said, they're afraid to let you see what state he's in. He said, but wherever he is, I'm with him. And I'm going to restore him. He said, because they can't limit my power. I'm God. They right now, they have separated y'all. He said, but I'll end that when the time comes. Because you got to trust God and step back and trust His timing and His methods. Because I can't even get a lawyer to even take our case and stuff like that. But sometimes God will do that so that nobody else helps you, so that when He takes care of business and turns it around, He's the only one that can get the credit. Because I had hired a lawyer by the name of Jill Flagg, and she ended up betraying me and Marquis. Filed it, wasn't competent enough to filed it in the wrong federal court, and then said she's going to refile it. Went on vacation, but at that time, you know how they all network, all those corrupt lawyers network. Her ambition was to be a judge, ran for judge up in around Akron, Ohio, or whatever, Summit County or whatever. Got defeated twice by the judges that were already in office, and then finally the state of Ohio paid her back, and Kasich appointed her as one of the judges when one of the incumbent judges had retired. So now she's finally where she's at. But you ought to see that lawsuit. It was just a mess, and it was filled. She sent me a draft, and it was just filled with all kind of errors and stuff. And I told her what the errors were, and she sent me another one back, and it still was kind of messed up. But she lied. But she turned out to be. And she told me, she said, "This is just full of racism. But she went ahead and betrayed me and Marquis. And when it got down to her ambitions, because they probably told her, if you get off of this case, we'll go ahead and appoint you a judge, give you a seat, with the next judge that retires. So me and Marquis, like I said, have been very, very, betrayed, and people have not helped us. And like I said, I haven't just sat on my hands and created pages on Facebook. I got emails. I even contacted the people that were doing Marquis wrong. Emails, from the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, and phone calls and recordings. And that's why I said I'm going to start putting my recordings along with Marquis. But the Lord said they're afraid to even let you see what shape he's in. They know where he's at. They've done seen him. They probably done sent somebody to see him. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. He said, but if I want to expose them, he said, you got them on Facebook, but when I want to expose them and bust this thing wide open, I'm going to bust it wide open. But like I said, God has his own timing and method. And I just trust that I don't believe God wants Marquis to live his life like that. I believe there's a calling on my son's life. What he's been through, the Lord's going to use for his good and my good, and to help other people. And I don't believe that he wants me to live the rest of my life never seeing my son again. I just don't believe that. I believe God's going to end this thing, and his anger, because you don't want God mad at you. You don't want the wrath of God on you, like what happened with a Jewish attorney by the name of David Belinky. He was now deceased. And when he was talking to me on the phone, I felt hot anger, not from me, not coming to me, but it was there. And I now realize it was the wrath of God. This man was arrogant. He bragged about being abusive or running over people in court. He thought he was untouchable and all powerful, and he thought he was a phenomenon. And within a year, the Lord spun me around, and in a store, Walmart, made me turn around in the store, made me go get a newspaper. And in that newspaper that day was this man's name at the top of the list of the obituaries. And God spoke to me, he said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. And he said this is a warning to his friends in the system. But when he was talking to me, I knew God was going to punish him, because I know God hates pride or arrogance. And you got to be careful when you mess with a Christian, because God tells us to step back, let him handle it. In fact, it's already handled. Just be still and let me handle the situation. He will fight our battles, and it's not a battle to him. So I knew God was going to punish him either now or later and stuff, because of his arrogance and the way he was living his life. I said, bad enough to be corrupt like that, but to brag about it and only God could stop him, because the probate court loved him, because they're corrupt. So he was just, one of their favorite sons. The corrupt court has corrupt attorneys. They like their corrupt attorney. So God put a stop to the evil. He just put his light out. And God can deal with people in a lot of ways. He can humble people. Sometimes they're so evil, he takes them off the planet. Or he leaves them on the planet and humble them a different way. Or, if you read the Bible, you can learn them things about God and see how he does things. But anyway, let me get to this. So on this recording, which is 9 minutes long, first, I'm talking to Miguel Salas on November 30th, 2012 on the phone. And I was telling him about the apartment that Marquis was placed in was not appropriate for him. It was voluntary placement after my home was foreclosed on. And I wanted to see if Marquis can, have his little own place. And I go over there every day and stuff. But it turned out to be terrible. The neighborhood was terrible. The place wasn't locked. They kept ringing the alarm system, which would throw my son in sensory overload. And I also was telling him, do not get rid of his IO waiver. Now, on November 30th, 2012, Marquis was involuntarily place at Columbus Developmental Center. But he still had his IO waiver in place. Actually, he had been there for 2 weeks, because November the 15th is when they illegally put Marquis in the state facility, because Marquis is not moderately retarded, and to civilly or commit somebody into an ICF MRF facility in Ohio, they have to be moderately retarded. And that's Franklin County Board of Developmental Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities actually filed a motion slandering and mislabeling my son to be moderately retarded. I'm really trying to talk fast here. Anyway, I was telling him that when he gets out, that I didn't want him at CDC because of what happened before with all the abuse, and that I wanted him to retain his IO waiver, and how bad that apartment was. I also told Salas that Ann Watson, who was the service coordinator, told me that they have new locations that come up every day. And that's when he said, well, Ann Watson doesn't know the procedures and details. And then the conversation goes to the next conversation is with Heidi Hughes, who worked at CDC, social worker, very corrupt, evil, hypocritical social worker. And I was telling her about African girl that would sit in me and Marquis's visits, which they had no right to do. This wasn't supervised visits or something like that, and laugh at me and Marquis. And they would sit in there in our conversations and would interrupt Marquis when he would get to about ready to start telling me things and spilling the beans. Then after that, then I go and visit Marquis. And he tells me, as always, he wants to leave. He misses me. You know, that he was serious with what he was telling me. Then they will always have me and him visit in the coffee shop in the administration building. They didn't want me to go over there and see Marquis's living area because I had told Disability Rights Ohio the hairballs that I'd seen in my son's room and how loud and noisy it was, and staff is roaming from other units on that unit, and it was just terrible. So they made sure that I wasn't going to go and see the living area no more. And that's what, you know, you're a black mother, you coming in there, and you got the nerves to challenge them, and then to also collect evidence. They don't want you around. They want to take your guardianship away. They don't want you to see all the dirt, because all that's supposed to be hidden. They don't need a parent that's going to come in there and spill the beans, a whistleblower. So, but Marquis didn't want to keep going back and forth. He wanted me to come over there and visit him in his living room. He didn't want to have to keep coming back in and out and stuff. And you'll hear that. And he told me to hurry up. He needed to get discharged. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And like I said, that the first part of this tape is of me talking to Miguel Salas. And it's about 9 minutes. So, and then you'll be able to hear that little bit of a snippet of me telling Heidi Hughes about her staff violating our rights to have a private family. I mean, Marquis hasn't had no rights. I mean, no human rights. He doesn't have any civil rights. You know, it's unconstitutional what they're doing to him and me. I mean, it's just been terrible. But God will step in because God designed a family. And I said, they don't have no right to separate our family. Now, they're talking about all these immigrants and all the separating those families. What about the American families that are have no abuse or neglect in them, and nobody's fighting for the American families that have been separated? But that's all right. I got an attorney. His name is Jesus Christ, and I got the best judge that you can get, a just judge, and that's God himself. And I'm looking forward to him bringing Marquis back home, and and let me see how he likes to do things with systems and people like that. I read about it in the Bible, but I'm gonna see how he's gonna handle this situation. We know he's got the victory because he's God, and they can't limit his power or his will and destiny for my son and myself. So let's go ahead and let you hear this before time runs out. And I apologize because this is on a micro cassette. It's not on the voice recorder. That doesn't happen until the tape's in, I think, March 2013. So here we go. This is from November 30th, 2012.
He's being triggered by the guys over there now. But, I done done enough teaching. People gonna just, the Lord ain't happy with your situation, and he's gonna find some booties. Because I'm a Christian woman, and my son ain't done that wrong. And people gotta start doing right by these autistic people, or they're gonna answer for it and stuff. Well, because I paid for Marquis to move his stuff over there. And Watson never told me this. She said, well, we be moving our clients all the time. And she said, the county pays for it. So, really? She said, yeah, we got movers. Well, okay, how about that?
So you heard Miguel Salas and Ann Watson didn't know the details and procedures when I told him that Ann Watson said that had told me that they also move clients from one place to another. And then here you're hearing me telling Heidi Hughes about an African girl that sits in on our conversations and laughs at me and Marquis. Marquis telling me he wants to leave. This is his visit. Said he misses me. Said, hurry up, I need to be discharged. Telling me he doesn't like a guy named Saul. So he wants to hurry up and get out of there. Now, Saul was a Native African with a home DD agency, and they were just didn't know what they were doing, But now, if I don't want my son to be around incompetent or unfit or however you want to describe it staff, then it was like, they said I didn't have the right to do that. But you go to these message, that's why it says racial, because then you go to these message boards and autism threads and message board, and the white parents can raise sand, raise hell, and to say you're not going to do this with my kid, or all the different choices and decisions they make. But a black parent, we supposed to keep our mouth shut and hang our head down low, not say anything. Like, I wasn't even supposed to say anything when I seen that thug hit Marquis in the chest. But a white parent, if I'd been white, it probably been some charges. They probably would have went ahead and did some charges. But, I said, I know these people are racist and sick in the head, but incompetent. I said, because Marquis ain't never told me, Mom, get out of the room or I hate you. I said, he's fitting to me, not because of me. But they would try to blame, after they done traumatized him and let their staff abuse him and assault him and terrorize him and put him in sensory overload, and he would vent to me. I said, he ain't gonna be quiet about it. He's upset. He's in emotional distress. He misses his mom. He wants to be home. strangers are beating him and mistreating him and stuff like that, of course he's going to vent to his mother. He's got a right to vent to his mother. I vent to my mother too. And he would beg me, and that's why I said, I'm going to put these tapes out here and let people hear it. Ain't none of that slimy scum or their lawyers or Aaron Stanford going to say boo-coo nothing to me. They're just going to hope that it go away. But I'm not going to be the one to blow it up. God is. I just got the evidence for God to use. And he really don't need my help. But that's why I say I don't worry about any kind of slander letters. I ain't going to get none. Because it ain't slander when it's true. I got too much evidence. But they're afraid to let me see him and see what type of shape he's in. Because it's been over 3 years. And they've been abusing and neglecting him. And he shows signs of abuse and neglect. Physically, emotionally, And he would just be reaching out like, Mom, get me out of here. Mom, this is what they're doing to me. But anyway, my time is almost up. So all power to God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Marquis, I love you. I think about you every day. I'm putting your story out here. I'm putting it out here. God gonna bring you back home. God is able. God has all control. And I think about you every single day. I love you. I miss you so much. I got a lot of stuff here waiting for you. And God has blessed me tremendously. He's given me all I can ask and think, and desires in my heart. And one of my desires, my number one desire, is to have you back home living with me. And I know the Lord has already got a handle. You hang in there. Know that you got a mother that loves you and misses you, but you also got God too. You got Jesus died for you. He cares about you. He loves you. And he's the one that can bring this down. And I'm honored to be your mother, because I know God will use people. He'll use people that other people count out. You're nothing to them, but you're everything to God. And I'm proud and honored to be your mother, and I love you so much. And I'm going to see you, because God's going to bring you back home to live with me. So you hang on in there. Love and kisses from your mother. And Jesus loves you too. And that's all I have for now. Thank you for listening. Love you, Marquis.